A kidnapped Marine, bound and helpless, made one final, silent plea at a roadside rest stop. No humans noticed, but 3 retired military dogs did. What followed was a breathtaking rescue that stunned witnesses and saved a hero's life. And it all started with a signal only dogs could see. Sergeant Ryan Cole had faced war zones, ambushes, and life-or-death missions, but nothing prepared him for what happened stateside. A decorated Marine just returning from a tour overseas, Ryan was finally headed home. He had chosen to drive cross-country to clear his mind, reflect in solitude, and soak in the peace he hadn't felt in years. His last known location was a dusty rest stop just off Highway 89. Surveillance showed him filling his gas tank, grabbing coffee, and walking back to his truck. Then, nothing. His truck was later found abandoned near a gas station with no sign of a struggle. Ryan had vanished. The military launched an internal investigation, and local authorities searched every corner of the area. Flyers were posted. News stations picked up the story. For days, there were no leads, no ransom, no messages, no digital trail. Family and fellow Marines feared the worst. But deep down, Ryan was alive. Trapped, restrained, and hidden from the world, he waited. For a moment, any moment, to fight back. His captors had made a critical mistake. And somewhere, out in that open desert, hope stirred in an unexpected form. Because when no one else saw his distress signal, 3 dogs would. And they wouldn't ignore it. Inside the truck bed, hidden, beneath a stained tarp and surrounded by empty toolboxes, lay Sergeant Ryan Cole, gagged, zip-tied, and bruised. His wrists ached from the restraints, and his lips were cracked from dehydration. But his mind was sharp, scanning for any chance to escape. As the vehicle slowed, Ryan felt the jolt of opportunity. The truck had stopped. Through a narrow gap near the tailgate, he could just see light, movement, life. A man exited the driver's seat and entered the small convenience store. Ryan knew this might be his only shot, but he couldn't scream. He couldn't fight. So he signaled. Ryan turned his bound hands just enough to press 2 fingers together, forming a subtle, specific movement, a code he had learned in K-9 training, known only to handlers and their dogs. It was a long shot, but it was all he had. He repeated the gesture again and again, slow and deliberate, praying someone, anyone, might catch it. No one inside the rest stop seemed to notice. But across the lot, lying in the shade beneath a nearby RV, 3 German shepherds lifted their heads. Their ears perked. Their noses twitched. Something had stirred them. Something was wrong. Within seconds, they were on their feet, alert and fixated on the truck. Ryan didn't know it yet, but his silent cry had been heard, just not by humans. The 3 German shepherds, Rex, Luna, and Bear, had once served as elite military K-9s. Now retired, they traveled with their handler, Jack Dalton, a former Marine. K-9 officer turned cross-country camper. They had been napping peacefully under the RV's awning when something suddenly snapped their focus. One by one, they stood, ears locked toward the white pickup across the lot. Rex growled low. Luna paced. In circles. Bear let out a sharp bark. Jack looked up from his map, frowning. "What is it, girl?" he asked, watching as all 3 dogs pulled toward the truck. They were trained to detect distress, and this wasn't just curiosity. It was instinct. And whatever they sensed, it was urgent. Jack had spent years trusting those instincts in the field. He stood slowly, watching his dogs strain against their leads, their eyes locked on the truck. As he approached cautiously, Rex barked louder, tugging forward, while Bear sniffed the air and circled to the rear of the vehicle. Luna began pawing at the tailgate, whining, then scratching frantically. Jack's gut tightened. He didn't see movement. He didn't hear anything unusual. But his dogs were never wrong. Not in Afghanistan, not in training, and certainly not now. He peered into the truck bed, eyes narrowing. Dust covered everything, but there, just barely, he caught a flicker of movement. A hand. A subtle signal. Jack's breath caught in his throat. Someone was inside. Someone needed help. And if not for the dogs, no one would have known. Jack's heart pounded as he stepped toward the truck, keeping one hand near his belt wear. His phone and an old service knife hung. The dogs were losing control now. Rex barked with aggression, Bear was snarling, and Luna kept clawing at the tailgate, desperate to reach whoever was inside. Jack leaned close and whispered, "Hang on, Marine." Just then, the driver exited the store, holding a bag of snacks. His eyes locked with Jack's. For a heartbeat, the air stilled. Then the man bolted. He knew he'd been made. Tires spun as the truck roared to life, kicking up a cloud of dust. Jack didn't think. He leapt forward, slamming his hands on the hood and shouting, "Help! There's someone inside." Gas station customers turned their heads as Jack stood in front of the moving truck, refusing to let it pass. The vehicle swerved, trying to go around him, but Rex lunged, biting at the bumper. The driver panicked. A second man from inside the store ran toward the truck. "Back up." Jack braced himself, ready for a fight. But he wasn't alone. Other travelers jumped in, surrounding the truck, pulling the second man to the ground. Shouts erupted. Sirens wailed in the distance. The captors knew it was over. They had underestimated the man and the dogs, who still lived by the code of honor and service. The scene was chaos. Bystanders pointing, dogs still barking, and two suspects pinned to the pavement by travelers who refused to stand by. Deputies quickly secured the men and turned their attention to the white truck. "There's someone inside," Jack said urgently. "I saw him signal." Luna stood poised at the tailgate, nose pressed to the crack, ears twitching. A deputy swung the tailgate open and gasped. There, wedged beneath a filthy tarp, was Sergeant Ryan Cole. His face was battered, lips dry, wrists tied tight. His eyes fluttered open as sunlight hit his face. He blinked twice, then whispered, "Dogs saw me." Medics rushed in with stretchers, carefully lifting Ryan from the cramped truck bed. The dogs, especially Luna, hovered close, licking his face and nudging his arms as if to reassure him. Ryan couldn't speak much, but the emotion in his eyes said everything. Cameras caught the moment. An exhausted Marine rescued not by a SWAT team, but by 3 loyal dogs who knew a call for help when they saw one. News of the rescue spread like wildfire. Videos shared online showed the dogs circling the truck, pawing at the tailgate. Social media exploded with praise. People called it fate, others called it divine. But Jack knew better. It was training, instinct, and a bond no evil could break, he told reporters. They didn't hesitate. They just acted. Sergeant Ryan Cole spent a week in the hospital recovering from dehydration, fractured ribs, and bruises that ran deep. But through it all, he never stopped asking about the dogs. On the day he was discharged, they were waiting. Rex, Luna, and Bear stood proudly in the hospital courtyard, tails wagging, eyes bright. When Ryan approached, they didn't jump or bark. They simply surrounded him, pressing their heads into his legs like they'd known him forever. Jack stood nearby, arms crossed, holding back tears. "They never forgot who they are," he said softly. "Once a protector, always a protector." A special ceremony was held 1 week later at the local Veterans Center. Community members gathered, along with active duty officers, fellow Marines, and dozens of K-9 handlers. Each dog received a medal engraved with their names and the words "for valor and vigilance." Ryan stood at the podium, fighting emotion. They didn't see a uniform. They saw someone in need, and they answered. He knelt beside Luna and whispered, "You saved my life, girl." Cameras flashed, but the moment was still. It wasn't about fame. It was about faith. Faith in loyalty, instinct, and the heroes who walk on 4 legs. And everyone felt it. He toured schools, rest stops, and public service departments, always with Jack and the 3 heroic dogs beside him. Their story wasn't just remembered, it was lived, the image of Ryan's bound hands signaling through a crack became a national symbol of silent strength. Sometimes, Ryan would say, "It's not the loudest cries that save us. It's the quiet ones answered by hearts that listen." And in that moment, people believed, especially the ones with pause.